Today we're in Hanoi, the vibrant capital of Vietnam, to explore the top 5 must-try dishes during your visit. From popular dishes that pretty much everybody will have heard of, to some lesser-known delicacies which might turn a few heads. We'll try to mostly avoid the tourist traps and give a few tips on how to survive in Vietnam along the way. And just to note, we didn't have time to try every famous dish Vietnam has to offer, but don't worry, as I'll have a similar video about the must-try dishes in Saigon coming soon, so stay tuned for that. Our first stop is Bun Cha Huong Lien, with their famous Bun Cha, a dish of grilled pork, vermicelli noodles, herbs, and a nice sweet fish sauce broth. Probably my favourite food in all of Vietnam actually, which is why it's at number 1. Now this is actually the place that Barack Obama and Anthony Bourdain famously filmed an episode of Parts Unknown at. But I promise I'm not just falling for the viral hype, and it is actually really good. And despite its fame, it was almost entirely local Vietnamese eating here, and it was packed. I had to pick the combo Obama from their menu of course, and at 130,000 dong for a bowl of bun cha, a big fried seafood roll and a beer. It's on the more expensive side for Hanoi, but they're rightly capitalising on the Obama fame, so I don't blame them. The beer is just a normal lager you'd find anywhere, but very refreshing in Vietnam's heat. And here's the full order, which at just under £4 or $5, is still pretty good value for the amount of food you're getting. The pork is a mix of meatballs and thick bacon cuts, all perfectly barbecued for a nice smoky flavour which goes excellently with the sweet fish sauce broth. Here's me showing off my chopstick skills whilst I enjoy my food, all while Barack Obama looks over me from above. And here's a close-up of that delicious smoky pork. This place is also pretty foreigner friendly because you can just point to the menu to order. They then give you a slip of paper as a receipt and you just bring it to the counter to pay. And quick humble brag, but I do speak enough Vietnamese to be able to order food at restaurants and make very basic conversation. But even if I didn't, I could still cope pretty well here, which definitely isn't the case for a lot of Vietnamese restaurants. But if you don't trust Barack Obama, I actually have a more budget option that's just as good. Bun Cha Que Tre, located on the street side in the north of the old town, is somewhere we just happened to walk by, but their bun cha is delicious and literally a true authentic street food experience. At 50,000 dong for a bun cha and spring rolls, it's a bit cheaper than Bun Cha Huong Lien, and just as tasty, though you do sacrifice some of the comfort of a brick and mortar restaurant. Still though, the pork was perfectly smoky and juicy, and everything else was pretty much identical, just a slightly smaller portion overall, and some of the meatballs were wrapped in this mysterious leaf. Now for dish number 2, we have pho, arguably the most famous Vietnamese food there is. It's a pretty simple dish of usually beef or chicken in a clear savoury broth with rice noodles and herbs to garnish. And because it's so simple, the quality of the broth is incredibly important and can make or break a good pho. Everywhere you go in Vietnam, you'll see restaurants specialising in it, and we decided on this place called Pho The Beo, and it turned out to be great. And quick tip for people travelling in Vietnam, if a place opens super early, like this one at 5 AM, then it's probably pretty authentic since no tourists are willing to wake up that early. And we opted for their cheapest option, Pho Bo Thai, at 30,000 dong, equivalent to just under £1 or just over $1. Also, if you didn't notice, the server is zooming around on a hoverboard, so I think it's worth coming here just to witness that. And the vital side to eat with pho is called quay, basically a Vietnamese fried dough stick. Popular throughout China and Vietnam, it's like a chewier and crispier version of a donut. Pho Bo Thai translates to rare beef pho, but don't be scared by the fact that the beef is rare, because the broth is so piping hot it basically cooks the beef instantly. And the thing that makes this restaurant stand out is that they make their broth really garlicky, which just makes for a super beefy, savoury flavour bomb. So every bite is delicious. Now the absolute best pho I've had in Hanoi was at this place called Pho Gia Cay Bac Dan. It looks basic, but their broth is incredible, so definitely check it out if you get the chance. Also, we randomly went to this random pho ga place, which is just another version of pho with chicken instead of beef. And it was surprisingly excellent, so I recommend you try both beef and chicken if you get the choice. But if I had to choose one, it would still be beef. Also, if you're wondering why there are so many flags literally everywhere we went, it's not because Vietnamese people are super patriotic, though they are. It's because the week we visited the country, they were celebrating the 80th anniversary since their declaration of independence, and the whole city was getting ready for a big parade to celebrate. So that was definitely cool to be a part of, and not something you see every day. Though as tourists, it was pretty annoying as they closed the whole central section of the city. Now dish number 3 is maybe Vietnam's most famous dish and also the cheapest, Banh Mi, the world famous Vietnamese sandwich where a fluffy French baguette meets delicious Vietnamese fillings to create probably the most satisfying sandwich in the world. and this one only costs 25,000 dong, which is about 80p or $1. Any city in Vietnam will probably have multiple banh mi places on every street, so I won't recommend a single location, but what I will say is there are a lot of overpriced tourist traps, so try to go where the locals go, and not this place, which I've seen all over the internet. Having been there, every single customer was a tourist, and the food was bland. Here's the sandwich in all its glory, filled with Vietnamese luncheon meat, pate, coriander, pork floss, mayonnaise and chili sauce. And I think that's all, but who knows. What I do know is that it was delicious, and if you've never had authentic banh mi, then you're missing out. I've tried to find a good one in London, but the bread is never as good. Whilst in Vietnam, the bread is always the perfect combo of fluffy on the inside and crispy on the outside. There are other variations of banh mi too, like bo ne, basically just steak and eggs, which is something I tried here in Saigon, but you'll have to wait for a future video to see that. Then there's also banh mi chao, which is basically all the regular ingredients served deconstructed in a skillet, and chao just means pan in Vietnamese, hence the name. Now for the fourth dish, we have a double whammy of some very traditional northern dishes called Bun Dau Mam Tom and Gia Cay. These I would put in the category of cool to try and broaden your horizons, but maybe not something the average Westerner would enjoy. To start with, we have Bun Dau Mam Tom, a normal enough looking dish with vermicelli noodles, fried tofu, pork and salad, but the main feature of the dish is the dipping sauce of Mam Tom, which is raw shrimp paste. If you've smelled raw shrimp paste before, then I'm sure you're aware, but it's extremely stinky, and once cooked it's surprisingly delicious in many dishes, but I still struggled to stomach the raw version. You can see me here just dipping it in normal fish sauce as I couldn't cope with the shrimp paste, which looks like this if you're eating it in the traditional way. And even people who like the smell would probably still describe it as very pungent. But every other part of the dish is tasty, and it was pretty cheap, so I would definitely say give this dish a try if you want to try something a bit different, and dare I say more authentic, in air quotes. Now the other dish I'm guessing most tourists never try is Gia Cay, which literally translates to fake dog meat. Made with pig's feet, turmeric, galangal, shrimp paste and fermented rice. It's an interesting flavour combination and kind of unlike any food I've ever tasted before, because supposedly it recreates the texture and taste of dog meat. But I can't say I want to try it again, and with all the bone and cartilage in the meat, it was actually pretty hard to eat. Now our final dish of the video is another Hanoi delicacy, with a history dating back over 150 years, at least according to Wikipedia. Cha Que Tre is a dish of grilled catfish, marinated in turmeric and galangal, then stir-fried with spring onion and loads of dill. Similar ingredients to the fake dog meat from earlier, but the flavour is much more delicate, and the herbiness from the dill really shone through. This was actually by far the most expensive meal we ate in Hanoi, and you can see the 4 dishes we ordered cost 620,000 dong, which is about £17 or $25. So not actually that expensive, but it is at least relative to the other dishes in this video. In fact, you probably won't find any street food places serving this dish, as it's more of a banquet food for big gatherings. And this restaurant was filled with loads of big groups all eating this. To go with it, we got some catfish spring rolls, and here we have some crispy fried frog legs with seaweed, and it really is true what they say about frog. It tastes just like chicken. You just have to be careful you don't eat the small bones. But frog legs are definitely something I'm a fan of. And lastly, this is fish stomach. Nothing special and very chewy, but hey, at least I can say I tried it. So in this video, I've just showed you 5 of Hanoi's most famous dishes, but there's so much more good stuff to eat here, like bang cuon, one of my favourites, or bang xiao, a delicious rice flour pancake, or this dessert called che, which come in a whole range of flavours combining jelly, fruit, coconut milk and more. Now my next video is going to be another Hanoi vlog, this time exploring all of the city's amazing cafes, trying wacky Vietnamese drinks like egg coffee, salt coffee, avocado and durian smoothies and much more. So subscribe to stay tuned for that, and very lastly, a few practical tips for travelling in Vietnam. Firstly, although I'm showing you a metro train right here, they're few and far between, and the majority of travel will just be by car, bike or walking. I found Grab to be the best app for ride-hailing in Southeast Asia, and you can order food for delivery too. And then another Vietnamese alternative is Sang SM, who were also good but cancelled more often. They also use VinFast cars and mopeds, so try them if you want to experience a Vietnam-made vehicle. Also, there's a saying in Vietnamese that goes, "Ở Hanoi không vội được đâu," which basically means in Hanoi you can't be in a hurry. That's because the traffic is terrible, so plan accordingly. And last of all, while credit cards are accepted in some places, cash is definitely king, so bring some. Most Vietnamese people actually use apps like ZaloPay and MomoPay to pay for pretty much everything, but foreigners can't use those, which is why you'll probably need to rely on cash. Anyway, that's it for this video. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and leave a comment too. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.